How can Russia work their way through the sanctions and what do they all mean for us? That big question and more with Professor Renato Cruz de Castro, International Studies Professor at De La Salle University. Professor de Castro, welcome to The Big Story.
Good evening.
Okay, so very quickly, other than us watching the fallout on oil prices and so on, what else are we bracing for here in our side of the world?
Well, at this point in time, it's just better to see what's happening, how the situation will evolve. It's too early to predict what would be the short or medium-term consequences of Russia's action. A lot of factors, of course, will depend on whether Russia can accomplish the fait accompli as soon as possible.
Okay.
So the shorter the conflict is, the less likely it will have any impact on the Philippines.
Okay. But assuming that it is protracted and this goes on, and assuming that, let's say, it actually turns for the worse, what is our relationship to Russia? How would we assess it? And how does that relationship with Russia, particularly between the Duterte government and the Putin administration, what might that mean for us? And is there any danger of us getting caught in the middle?
I don't think so. The two presidents are in friendly terms, but whether it will affect the bilateral relation, I don't think that will be the case.
Okay.
My concern will be in terms of the long-term strategic consequences. Number one, let's look at what's happening in Ukraine. So you have a regional power trying to assert its supremacy against a former client state that is trying to get out of the Russian sphere of influence. So this is a scenario here. Of course, this might also happen in our region, given the fact that we have also here a regional power who is also starting to become very conscious of its comprehensive capabilities. And of course, it's been also trying to impose its degree of suzerainty or create its own sphere of influence here in the Indo-Pacific region. Because we also have to take into account, as mentioned by Ambassador Kim Soleta, Russia has a credible partner. And definitely we know who that credible partner is. It's no less than China, who also has its regional ambition in the Indo-Pacific region against Taiwan, in the South China Sea, and of course against Japan. The second long-term implication, of course, is that China's action against Ukraine might be the beginning of a concerted effort, not only of Russia, but also of China to unravel what we call the unipolar moment. When the Cold War ended in 1991, the world suddenly had only one superpower, and that's the United States. So right now, of course, Russia and China are trying to transform this unipolar moment into what they call the multipolar.
Well, Professor, let me interrupt you there only because we don't have a lot of time. But
sure,
how would that manifest on our side of the world? What are you saying China might have the options to do in these parts?
Yeah, basically, of course, put pressures on Taiwan. And of course, it will have implication here. The United States will draw the line here in the Indo-Pacific. Of course, in case of what's happening in Ukraine, Ukraine is not a member of NATO, so the United States and NATO are on the sideline.
Okay.
But not here in the Indo-Pacific region.
Okay, Professor de Castro, maraming salamat po. That was International Studies Professor Renato Cruz de Castro.